There's a moment on a Wednesday night when your partner says something simple. You seem distant lately, and your chest tightens with immediate defensiveness. Before you can even think, the words are already leaving your mouth. I'm not distant, you're the one who's been pulling away. Your voice has an edge you didn't consciously choose. Your jaw is tight, your shoulders are up, and even as the accusation lands, part of you, some quieter, more honest part, knows something's off. Because the truth you're not ready to see is that you have been distant. You've been overwhelmed at work, shutting down emotionally, going quiet when they try to talk. But admitting that feels too vulnerable, too exposing, too close to saying, I'm failing at this relationship. So, without thinking, without planning, your mind does a sleight of hand. It takes the feeling you can't face in yourself and flips it outward. You take what's yours and hand it to them instead. And for a few seconds, it works. The discomfort moves outside of you. You're not the problem. They are. The heat of shame cools into righteous frustration. But later, lying in bed, replaying the conversation in your head, you feel it. That hollow, unsettled feeling. The sense that you just blamed someone else for something that was actually yours. And you don't know how to take it back without admitting you were wrong, without cracking open the very vulnerability you were trying to avoid. This doesn't just happen once. It's not a one-time mistake you make in a heated moment. It happens in small, invisible ways all the time, woven into the fabric of how you see the world and the people around you. At work, there's a coworker who takes all the credit for group projects. You complain about it to anyone who listens. They're so self-centered, always making it about them. Can't stand people like that. The irritation feels justified, even righteous. But when you're honest with yourself, in those rare, quiet moments when your guard is down, you notice that you also crave recognition. You also want to be seen, valued, appreciated for what you bring. The difference is you've learned to hide it, to downplay your achievements, to deflect compliments, to stay humble. So when someone else doesn't hide it, when they claim their wins and take up space without apology, it bothers you. Not because they're objectively wrong, but because they're doing what you won't let yourself do. And watching them do it freely makes you feel the gap between who you are and who you wish you could be. With friends, someone cancels plans last minute, and you feel a surge of anger that surprises even you. They're so flaky, they only care about themselves, they never follow through. The reaction feels proportional in your mind. But if you pause long enough to be really honest, you might notice that you've been wanting to cancel too. You're exhausted, you don't have the energy for socializing, but you feel crushing guilt admitting that, so you keep saying yes and quietly resenting it. When your friend cancels, the anger you feel isn't really about them being inconsiderate. It's about the freedom they just took that you won't give yourself. They did what you desperately want to do but can't allow. At family gatherings, a sibling's life choices irritate you in a way that feels disproportionate to what they're actually doing. They're irresponsible, impulsive, always chasing the next shiny thing instead of settling down. And maybe they are. Maybe their choices are messy. But underneath the judgment, if you dig deep enough, there's often envy. They're doing what you secretly wish you could do, taking risks, following curiosity, living less carefully, caring less about what everyone thinks. You've been the responsible one your whole life, the dependable one, the one who does the right thing. And it's exhausting. It's suffocating. So when you see someone living differently, it doesn't feel like inspiration or variety. It feels like a mirror showing you what you're not letting yourself be. And that mirror is unbearable. This pattern, this unconscious habit of handing your disowned feelings to other people starts early and runs deep. A girl grows up in a house where anger isn't allowed, where raising your voice or expressing frustration gets you shut down, dismissed, or punished. When she gets mad, she's told she's overreacting, being dramatic, ruining the mood, making things harder than they need to be. So she learns to stuff it down, to smile when she's furious, to be sweet when she's seething, to keep the peace at all costs. But the anger doesn't disappear. It doesn't evaporate just because she stopped expressing it. It goes underground, into the basement of her psyche. And years later, as an adult, she finds herself constantly surrounded by angry people. Her partner is angry, her boss is angry, strangers on the road are angry. She complains about them endlessly. Why is everyone so angry all the time? Why can't people just be calm? But she never connects the dots, that what she's seeing in them is the anger she's not allowed to feel in herself. She's projecting it onto the world because she can't hold it inside her own body without falling apart. A boy learns that sadness is weakness, that crying is shameful, that showing vulnerability makes you a target. When he cries, his father tells him to toughen up, to stop being soft, to be a man. So he learns to go numb, to shove the sadness down, to replace it with toughness or humor or cold silence. But the sadness doesn't go away. It lingers in his chest, in his throat, waiting. And in adulthood, he finds himself deeply annoyed by people who cry, who are too emotional, who make everything a big deal. He calls them weak, needy, exhausting. But what he's really doing is protecting himself from the part of him that still carries unprocessed grief, unspoken loss, the tears he never let himself cry. The projection keeps the sadness at arm's length. As long as it's in them, he doesn't have to feel it in himself. Psychologists call this projection. It's a defense mechanism, one of the ways the mind protects itself from feelings, thoughts, or truths that are too uncomfortable, too threatening, too destabilizing to hold consciously. Instead of saying, "I feel this," you say, "They are this." Instead of owning your anger, your need, your jealousy, your fear, your desire, you see it in someone else and react to it there. It's not a conscious choice. You're not sitting there thinking, "I'm going to blame them for what's actually mine." It happens automatically, in the moment, faster than thought, as a way to keep your sense of self intact. Because if you admitted the thing you're projecting, if you said out loud, "I'm angry, I'm needy, I'm jealous, I'm scared, I want attention, I'm insecure," it would crack open the carefully constructed image you've built of who you're supposed to be. And that feels dangerous. It feels like losing yourself. So the mind finds another way. It puts the feeling outside. And for a while, that works. Carl Jung talked about projection as one of the main ways we encounter our shadow, the parts of ourselves we've rejected, denied, hidden, or disowned because they don't fit the persona we're trying to maintain. He said that what you don't own in yourself, you'll meet in the world. The qualities you judge most harshly in others are often the qualities you've rejected in yourself. Not always. Sometimes people genuinely are behaving badly. Sometimes your irritation is justified. But when your reaction is intense, when it's out of proportion to what actually happened, when it feels deeply personal even though it's not about you, that's a clue. That's projection trying to show you something about yourself that you're not ready to see. Here's how it shows up in everyday life, in the small moments that add up. You're in a meeting and someone interrupts you mid-sentence. Your immediate thought, "They're so rude. They have no respect for anyone. They just bulldoze over people." And maybe that's true. Maybe they do interrupt a lot. But if you're honest, you also interrupt sometimes. You also get excited and jump in before someone finishes. But when you do it, it feels different in your mind. It feels justified. You had something important to add. You were being collaborative. When they do it, it's a character flaw. That double standard, that's projection at work. In romantic relationships, your partner forgets something you asked them to do. Your immediate reaction, "They never listen. They don't care about what matters to me. I'm always the one keeping track of everything." But when you forget something they asked for, you have a reason. You were stressed. You had a lot going on. It wasn't intentional. It doesn't mean you don't care. The same behavior, two completely different stories. One for you, one for them. That asymmetry is projection, protecting your ego by putting the flaw entirely outside yourself. At home, you're scrolling through social media and see someone posting constantly about their achievements, their life, their wins, their travel, their glow-up. It irritates you in a way you can't quite name. They're so desperate for attention, so insecure, so performative. But if you pause and get really honest, you might notice that you also want attention. You also want to be seen, admired, recognized. You're just too scared to ask for it, too afraid to be visible, so you stay quiet and small and judge people who don't. The projection lets you feel morally superior while avoiding the vulnerability of admitting what you actually want. The cost of staying stuck in projection is real and accumulating. It keeps you from seeing yourself clearly, from knowing who you actually are beneath the defenses. It keeps you blaming others for problems that are at least partly yours, which means you never address your side of things. It damages relationships because the people you're projecting onto feel misunderstood, unfairly accused, like they're being handed emotions and accusations that don't actually belong to them. And it keeps you disconnected from parts of yourself, parts that, if you could own them, integrate them, give them space, might actually help you grow, might actually make you more whole. But here's the shift, the reframe that changes everything. Projection isn't a moral failing. It's not proof that you're broken or bad. It's a signal. It's your psyche trying to show you what you haven't integrated yet, what you haven't made peace with, what you're still rejecting in yourself. The intense irritation you feel towards someone, that's a clue. The judgment that feels disproportionate, that keeps coming up again and again, that's information. Instead of seeing projection as something to be ashamed of, you can start seeing it as a map. It's pointing you back to yourself, to the parts you've hidden, to the feelings you've rejected, to the qualities you've disowned. And when you're willing to turn around and look, when you're willing to ask, what am I not seeing in myself? What am I putting on them that's actually mine? Everything changes. So how do you work with projection instead of staying trapped in it? How do you start recognizing it in real time and using it as a tool for growth instead of a weapon for blame? First, notice when your emotional reaction feels too big for the situation. Projection always comes with disproportionate intensity. Someone does something mildly annoying and you're furious for hours. Someone makes a small mistake and you feel visceral disgust. Someone expresses a need and you feel overwhelming irritation. That gap between the trigger and the intensity of your reaction is the clue. When you feel that intensity rising, pause. Don't act on it yet. Don't send the text, don't say the cutting thing, don't make the accusation. Just notice it. Then ask yourself, as gently as you can, is this really about them, or is this touching something unresolved in me? You don't have to have the answer immediately. Just asking the question loosens the grip of the projection. Emma used to get intensely angry when her younger sister talked about her accomplishments, new job, promotion, award, whatever. She'd feel this wave of irritation and shut down emotionally, change the subject, make a passive comment. One day, instead of reacting, she sat with the feeling and asked herself, why does this bother me so much? What's really happening here? And the answer that surfaced surprised her. Because I'm scared to want things for myself. I'm scared to try and fail. I'm scared to be visible. So when she succeeds, it reminds me of everything I'm not doing, everything I'm too afraid to reach for. That awareness didn't fix everything overnight, but it stopped her from blaming her sister for feelings that were actually about her own fear, her own paralysis. Second, keep a projection journal. When you notice yourself judging someone harshly, accusing them, feeling disproportionately annoyed, write it down. Not to shame yourself, but to track the pattern over time. Write what they did. Write what you felt. Write what you thought about them. Then ask yourself honestly, do I ever do a version of this? Do I have this quality in me, even in a different form or context? Often, the answer is yes. Maybe not in the exact same way, but the core is there. Marcus kept getting annoyed by a friend who never committed to plans, who was always wishy-washy, always keeping options open. He complained about it constantly. Then, one day, he wrote it down and asked himself the hard question. And he realized he also struggled with commitment. Not with social plans, but with his career, with relationships, with making big decisions. He just hid it better. He looked decisive on the outside while feeling paralyzed on the inside. The projection was showing him his own pattern, just in a different arena. Third, check your blind spots by asking trusted people for feedback. The things you project are, by definition, things you can't see clearly on your own. They're in your blind spot. So ask people you trust, people who know you well. Is there anything I accuse others of doing that I also do? Are there double standards I hold? It's an uncomfortable question. It requires humility, but the answers can be incredibly revealing. Jake asked his partner this, half expecting reassurance that he was fine. Instead, she paused and said gently, "You get really upset when I'm late to things, but you're late all the time and it doesn't seem to bother you when you do it." It stung. He wanted to defend himself, but when he sat with it, he knew it was true. He held her to a standard he didn't hold himself to. And recognizing that let him stop projecting his own disorganization and time blindness onto her and start owning it as his own pattern. Fourth, practice saying out loud what you're actually feeling instead of projecting it onto someone else. This is the hardest one. It requires vulnerability, the very thing projection is designed to avoid. But it's the antidote. Instead of, "You're being distant," try, "I've been feeling distant and I'm scared to admit it." Instead of, "You're so needy," try, "I'm struggling with my own need for closeness and it's making me uncomfortable." When you own it, when you bring it back inside yourself, the projection loses its power. The feeling doesn't have to travel through someone else anymore. It can just be yours. Dana started doing this with her partner after months of accusing him of pulling away emotionally. One night, instead of starting another fight, she said, "I think I've been the one pulling away. I've been overwhelmed and I didn't know how to say it." It changed the entire conversation. Instead of defending himself, he softened. He asked what was going on, and they could actually talk about the real thing instead of the projected thing. Fifth, sit with the disowned part instead of just intellectually acknowledging the projection and moving on. When you recognize a projection, don't just think, "Oh, that's projection," and leave it there. Actually sit with it. Close your eyes. Imagine the quality you've been projecting onto others. If it's anger, imagine your own anger. If it's neediness, imagine your own need. If it's selfishness, imagine your own desire to prioritize yourself. What does it look like? What does it feel like in your body? What does it want to say to you? Often, the disowned part isn't a monster. It just wants to be seen, to be heard, to have a little space. It's not trying to take over your entire life. It's just asking to exist. Sarah did this with her lifelong judgment of selfish people. She realized she'd been taught that selfishness was the worst possible thing you could be. So she became endlessly giving, endlessly accommodating, always putting others first. But underneath all of that, there was a part of her that was exhausted, that wanted to say no, that wanted to prioritize her own rest and needs. When she sat with that part in meditation, it wasn't selfish in some monstrous way, it was just tired. And giving it a voice, letting herself be a little more selfish, a little more boundaried, didn't make her a bad person. It made her more whole, more honest, more real. Sixth, practice catching yourself mid-projection and course-correcting in the moment. This won't happen perfectly, especially at first, but over time, with practice, you'll start catching projections sooner. You'll be mid-accusation and realize, wait, I think I'm projecting right now. When that happens, you can pause. You can say out loud, actually, I think I'm projecting. Let me rethink this. It's awkward, it's vulnerable, but it builds trust. It shows the other person that you're willing to own your part instead of always making them the problem. And it breaks the cycle in real time instead of letting it spiral. Over time, as you work with projection instead of being unconsciously run by it, relationships change in profound ways. You stop putting people in rigid boxes, the angry one, the selfish one, the needy one, the flaky one, and start seeing them as whole, complex human beings. You also start seeing yourself more clearly, more honestly. The parts you've been rejecting, the feelings you've been disowning, the qualities you've been hiding, they slowly come back into the fold. You become more whole. Not perfect, not without flaws, just more integrated, more honest, more at peace with the full range of who you are. Conflicts don't spiral as often because you're not constantly defending against your own reflection in other people. And when you do project, because you will, because we all do, because it's part of being human, you catch it faster, you own it sooner, you repair it, you learn from it. And that learning becomes the foundation for deeper, more honest, more connected relationships. The Wednesday night when your partner said, "You seem distant," and you snapped back with, "No, you are," that moment doesn't have to be the end of the story. You can come back to it. You can sit with what happened. You can say, "I'm sorry, I think I was projecting. I have been distant. I've been overwhelmed and shutting down, and I didn't want to admit it because it felt like failing." That honesty doesn't fix everything, it doesn't erase the hurt, but it stops the cycle. It brings the projection back home. It lets both of you be human. And that's what projection is asking for all along. Not perfection, not the absence of flaws, but the willingness to see yourself in the mirror instead of constantly turning it on everyone else. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more videos on psychology, self-awareness, and the kind of inner work that actually leads somewhere real. Drop a comment and let me know. What's one thing you've caught yourself projecting onto others? I read every one.